I've got an hour and 37 minutes left on this card, and I don't think I should go more than that. Hi, puppy! Good morning! What you doing, creeper? Pull up your project, grab a hot or cold delicious drink. We're gonna answer some assumptions. First off, elephant in the room. I am working on the stained glass skirt. This is your sneak peek of it. It's probably gonna show up in some second channel videos, and by probably I mean I've already filmed some while working on it, so it will be showing up. I have already discovered that trying to film while working on this is a very slow process. So will we make much progress? Probably not. So the channel passed 250,000 subscribers, and basically when I see like a nice round number get hit, I'm like, time for a Q&A. It has been almost 2 years since the last Q&A video, which I kind of forgot about because it sort of feels like every video is slightly a Q&A video on this channel. Especially with the second channel. That one's like every video is one giant A to one specific Q. What am I doing first? Last time I legit made a spreadsheet, because of course I did, of all the questions, but I wanted to mix it up this time and try something slightly different. So one, instead of questions, we're doing that good old answer your assumptions format that found a home on YouTube many, many years ago. Love being about a decade behind the trends. But also, I made the post on YouTube 2 days ago on Monday, and I have not allowed myself to look at it, to look at the comments at all, because I wanted to be surprised instead of being prepared, which is an interesting angle for me. I'm usually prepared. I did try to narrow it down by only asking for assumptions on YouTube. Usually I do stuff on YouTube and Instagram, but I was like, it's always too much and I can't answer all of them. So let me just do it on YouTube this time. Oh, there's still 137 comments. Okay, so slight disclaimer. I might not be able to get to all of them. I probably won't be able to get to all of them. There's 137. Let's just start at the very beginning. First assumption. You hate being given advice you don't ask for, especially on already finished and uploaded projects you were happy with. Oh, baby. You know what? This is a great assumption to make, not just about me, but probably about most YouTubers. In fact, you could go so broad as to say that's probably an assumption you could make about most people, even if you remove the posting part of it. When people have finished something and they're happy with it, and they don't ask for advice about it because they're happy with it, are they ever gonna be like, oh, thank God, tons of people gave me unsolicited advice? So yes, this is a correct assumption, and I think it's something you kind of have to get used to when you post your stuff online. There is some unsolicited advice that is at least not just nicer. It's not like, oh, you're nice and you're mean. Most people who are giving advice are doing it nicely, with a few exceptions of people who are horrible. But most people are doing it because they genuinely want to help. It's interesting how much people want to help in a situation where you don't need help, where you didn't ask for help, where your help can't be applied, their help can't be applied because it's already over. I find that fascinating, but I don't find it surprising. I think some people give their unsolicited advice more in a, hey, if anybody else is wanting to do this thing, here's something this YouTuber could have done to make the process easier or to make the project turn out a different way. And when it's framed like that, I tend to be like, okay, share information. I love that the comment section becomes a place to share information. There's a difference to me between that and someone saying, you should have done this instead. Yes, a greatly accurate first assumption. Unsolicited advice is a tricky part of being on YouTube. Okay, second one. You prefer making something to having made the thing, so you struggle with finishing projects where you don't have a not necessarily practical use for what you're making. This is half right and half wrong. First part, correct. I do prefer the making process to having made something, to the point where sometimes I get to filming my final product, like I've finished the thing, now I get to show it off, and I think for a lot of people, that's the thing they were aiming for, is now I get to do the photo shoot, now I get to take that footage. I'm usually instantly bored. It's a struggle to make myself put effort into showing off the final product, because I'm like, I'm done now. My brain is like, we're done. That's it. You did the thing, you made the thing, you had fun making the thing. Who cares anymore? Which is the exact opposite of what you learn on YouTube, is like, yes, it's not true for everyone, for every viewer, but like most viewers are kind of watching the video to see the final product, or they might even just skip ahead and look at that. So it's very opposite, and I've had to learn to at least give a slight amount of effort to my final products, even if I'm just done. However, I don't struggle with finishing projects usually, and I think that's because I have a second part of my brain that counteracts or overrides the I don't really care about the final product thing. I'm very much like a you start something, you're supposed to finish it, with very few exceptions. If I have a project like this one that is gonna take a long time and I'm gonna work on in segments, like my big embroidery projects, I go into that knowing that this is going to take a very long time, but I still 100% expect to finish it. So I actually have very, very few unfinished projects. There's a dress that's been laying across the carousel horse in my studio for like 6 months now? Ooh, it might even be longer than that. But my brain still hasn't really accepted that it's an unfinished project, because I just say, well, it's on hold and I'm about to finish it. Yeah, so I tend to finish things. If I start them, I finish it. And that's just a second part of my brain that kind of requires me to do that. This person said, I assume you have half a dozen unfinished works in progress at any one time, like me. Yeah, kind of. Again, I definitely plan on finishing them. I don't really do the whole like set something aside with no plans, but how many do I currently have? This is one project, Beauty and the Beast, Fantasia. I think I only have 3 things in progress right now. Unless you want to count that dress, in which case 4. I am about to start a new embroidery project, because generally my rule nowadays is I'm allowed to have 3 embroidery projects going at any one time. Yeah, I guess I only have 3. I really thought I had more, but okay. I assume you're going to introduce me to more crafts than I ever knew existed. I hope so. I've reached a point where I've realized that I'm just fascinated in making in general. I kind of always knew that, but I did get hooked on embroidery for a while, and then I was hooked on macrame for a short amount of time, and then hooked on sewing for a while. And I have realized that the best way for me to not burn out in one area, I don't think I've ever burned out, but I've seen that coming sometimes. And the best way to not do that is to vary things up. I like to do a lot of things. I love to explore new things. So I hope that I will introduce you to many new crafts over the ages. On a more personal note, I assume you're one of the most liberal in your childhood family. Yes, that is... yeah, that's accurate. I assume you're always busy even when you're not. Yeah. I don't know how to not be busy. I don't know what that's like. The first time in my life that I felt like I was really thriving, which granted, like this was the beginning of adulthood, was college. But it was because of how many different things I did in one day. I had an insane schedule. Not in that it was like crazy, but you know, you have all the different classes you're going to. I had 3 to 4 jobs most of the time that I was working, and I was in theater, so I was doing rehearsals, or I was working on costumes for a show or something. So my schedule was busy from start of day to end of day. I would usually leave my room in the morning with this huge bag because I wasn't coming back until 10:30 at night. And it was constantly different things throughout the day. And that just was amazing for me. It was an amazing experience to be busy and to be varied at the same time. And then I remember after graduating and having a full-time job, I was like looking at my schedule and it just made me so sad because it was like all of this stuff on my schedule. First of all, it's almost nothing, but it's still filling the same amount of time. It's the same thing. It's just go to job, go to job, go to job, go to job, but it's filling all the same time, but it's only one thing now. And that made me really sad, and that kind of implies why I had trouble with normal jobs. Yes, I love to be busy. I am getting no stitching done here. This may have been a terrible plan. I assume that you are married to someone low-key famous / well-off that allows you the opportunity for the channel and other zany things. He's not low-key famous. Engineers are not names that normal people know. Like, can you name a single music engineer? I would assume no. Most people don't even know what they do. But like, then you can always say like somebody's kind of like famous within their career field. Like engineers know the most famous engineer. He'll tell me sometimes, he'll be like, oh, this guy mixed this song. He's like the most famous engineer. And I'm like, okay. He's not even famous in that way because he's like, we just started our careers. He's like 31. How old is Matt? He's like 30, 31. We just got started. So low-key famous, no. Low-key well-off. His job does pay him well. I think more importantly, he came from a well-off family. So this is actually a correct assumption for several years. I've said this in some other videos, I think at some point. The only reason I was able to start this channel the way that I started this channel is because Matt was able to support me for about 2 years while I made barely any income, like bottom of the barrel income. I did work some other jobs while I was doing YouTube in the beginning, but again, it was for brief amounts of time, it was for very little amount of money. So yes, the only reason that I was able to like dive into YouTube full time is because Matt was able to support me on his salary and with assistance from his family. His family has always assisted us as well. So that is actually a correct assumption. Starting about 18 months ago, I have started to make an actual living wage on YouTube. So we are now sharing the responsibility, I guess. Like we are both supporting ourselves. We are kind of at an equal place with our incomes, which is delightful and I so appreciate. Everything for the channel, I've always paid for myself. So this does mean now that I have a higher income, I'm able to do things like last year going to England to take that embroidery trip. I would not have been able to do that the year before. I was only able to do that because I had actually started to make income off of YouTube, which is amazing. But yeah, it was absolutely a massive privilege to have somebody in my life who was able to support me when I wanted to start this channel, which I think is a big reason why I have like a really strong desire to support other YouTubers who are coming up in some way. And that's something I've been thinking a lot about for the last year because I realized that I was able to do this because of a privileged position I was in. So it's like, can I assist other people in some way in the future? I'd love to be able to do that. My mouth is dry. Okay, I apologize in advance if I never do a single stitch on this in this video, but you at least got to see the progress. You got to see where we are, right? Yeah? It's funny, when I do this for videos on the second channel, it's slower, but I was able to stitch, but I'm also doing a script. I have a pre-written script. So what I've just discovered in the last 15 minutes is that when I don't have a script prepared and I actually have to think of things to say, simultaneous stitching kind of goes straight out the window. Let's keep going. I'll shorten this one to the first line. I'm assuming you were a surrogate like me. I was not a surrogate. I have had a child, but it was an unplanned pregnancy and I chose to put that child up for adoption and find them a family. Thank you again. Everyone who asks about this is always super respectful. I know I haven't gotten around to talking about this. I kind of expect to tell this story someday on the second channel. However, as I think you guys can all understand, it's a complex, nuanced story, and complexity and nuance are not currently easy things to put on the internet, you know? So I have to make sure that I'm in a place where I'm comfortable with receiving feedback on that story is a good way to put it. But yes, I have a daughter. She has an amazing adoptive family. I see her as frequently as I can. We are kind of halfway across the country from each other, but I go see her as much as I can. It was a lovely situation and experience all around, and one that I do not regret. Yeah, so a lot of people I think kind of have assumed in the past that when I say like I was pregnant once, that I was a surrogate. No, I was not a surrogate. It was just an unplanned pregnancy. I kind of assume you've either done some sort of theater or maybe drama in school. You have an amazing voice. Thank you. Yes, I went to college for theater. I got a degree in musical theater. I had not done very much kind of any theater prior to college because my mom was not willing to drive me to rehearsals. And like usually you had to pay for it. We couldn't afford it, let's just be real. But yeah, in 10th grade, I decided that's what I was going to college for and I made it happen. My assumption is that you sing while showering. You know what? Yes, I do sing while showering. But I've noticed that I actually sing in the shower less lately. And I think it's because I'm a night showerer. I shower it's like shower, read in bed, go to sleep. It takes me down. It brings my whole energy down for sleeping. And I think singing kind of like raises my energy. For a very unenergetic overall person, it kind of hypes me up ever so slightly. So I think I don't sing in the shower much anymore because usually I'm trying to kind of sink down into sleepiness. But I do now have the pleasure of having a private home to myself, so I get to sing around the house now, which is amazing. The other day, I randomly belted something out and was like, oh my God, I've never sung that full out in a home before. I usually only do that in my car. So I'm starting to feel comfortable here. Ooh, okay, I love this assumption. This is just a very interesting topic in general, so I'll try to keep it short. I assume you, like me, experience a sudden absence of examples to call on when given a prompt, when otherwise outside of the prompted moment, you usually have such things come to mind all the time. I think about this constantly. And this is why I try to pre-write scripts in my head. Yes, you know, like, when people are getting interviewed on red carpets and they'll be like, what's your favorite movie? I'm like, if you asked me that on a red carpet, not that I ever expect to be asked questions on a red carpet, but like if that situation arose, my mind would go blank. I would not be able to think of a single movie. So I try to prep answers to questions like that in advance. Although again, when is this coming up? I don't know. But I try to have answers prepped for stuff like that because I'm always like, if somebody just asks me a random question, I'm not gonna have an answer. I'm telling you, it's like a vacuum that just like shwink, takes all of my thoughts out of my brain. And if I have a pre-planned script of answers, then maybe I'll be able to overcome that vacuum. The one I heard the other day, somebody asked, where do I watch these I don't watch red carpet interviews, so why do I see this? I guess they come up on Instagram. But I saw somebody on a red carpet getting asked, what's your favorite lyric? And I was like, that's one I haven't decided in my brain. So I sat there and I decided on my favorite lyric, and I even like repeated it multiple times in my brain as like, let's try to lock this in. So if somebody ever asks you what's your favorite lyric, you're locked and loaded and you can answer the question. But yeah, oh my God, my brain will go empty, which like, not actually empty because my brain is never empty, but all answers to that question, whatever somebody's just asked me, will just disappear. And I live in fear of that happening, even though it has happened fairly rarely in life. So I pre-plan answers to as many questions as I can think of. Also, my favorite lyric at the moment that I've decided is from a Mumford & Sons song, because they do amazing lyrics, and it's, if only I had an enemy bigger than my apathy, I would have won. I believe that's what it is. I have the assumption that you break into song randomly. Yes, constantly. I remember the very first time that I watched the show New Girl. I remember thinking like, how her character like sings all the time. I was like, God, that's so over the top and like cheesy. Like that's such a sitcom character. I think it's important to note that when this happened, I was in a heavy masking period of my life. Then I rewatched the show many years later when I was comfortable and unmasked and much more me, and I was like, why did I ever think that? I literally do the same thing. Not only singing any song that is triggered by a word that I just heard or said, but also just like singing made up songs about what I'm doing. Like, yeah, it's a thing. What am I doing first? I assume that you have bungee jumped or it's at least on your bucket list. I haven't done it yet, but yes, it is on my bucket list. When I was traveling in Scotland, I was so close to going bungee jumping. They have one there that's like off this massive crane. But I wasn't doing like a pre-planned trip. I was literally just driving and sleeping in my car. I didn't know at what points I would hit different places. And it was expensive at the time. I was, on a very tight budget. So I would have had to pre-book it and pay for it. And then like if I missed it, I just missed it and I lost that money. So I chickened out because I didn't want to waste money and then accidentally not make it there in time. But I did not chicken out from the jumping itself. It is still on my list. I so want to do it. It looks so fun to me and so amazing to just jump off of something. Whew! I assume you are really good at makeup, but you won't wear it unless you really have to. Kind of not true anymore, half of it. So this was actually, we'll do a slight version of it here. I thought I should do a whole second channel video on this at some point. I was, for a period of my life, about to be a makeup artist, like about to go to school for that. That did not happen for reasons, too long of a story. But at that point, I do think I was good at makeup, although I will say I was really only interested in like theatrical makeup. I have never enjoyed doing like day-to-day makeup. It's boring to apply for me. It's not like I have any issue with people wearing makeup. I think everyone should do exactly what they want, but like applying just a day look of makeup always bored me. I wanted to do like prosthetics and colors and airbrushing and interesting stuff. So yeah, at that point, I was good at makeup. I was good enough to get into a school. It's been many, many years since then. So I don't know that I'm good at makeup anymore because I just don't do it much. But also, yes, I will not wear makeup unless I really have to. I don't like the feeling of stuff being on my face. And that took me years to realize that that's the reason I'm not into makeup. This one's so specific and I love it because people's assumptions have mostly been right so far. I assume you walk barefoot almost everywhere. Yes, 100%. I hate shoes. My feet do not want things on them. They are tough. And so like I can step on sharp stuff, rough stuff, very hot stuff. And this has been like since I was a child. I would rather build up calluses on my feet and be able to walk on anything than have to put on shoes. I would go through all of life barefoot if I could. And also a lot of time on tiptoes. Yeah, actually, not a lot of times, but I think walking on tiptoes, well, okay, I don't walk on tiptoes a lot, but if I ever want to run, I never full out run, but if I ever want to go faster, I will mostly do that on my tiptoes. And I think it's like a noise thing. I don't like how loud footsteps are, and especially when you start speeding up, then it's like bum, 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 bum. And so if I'm trying to go faster, it's just like an automatic reaction to me to kind of go up on tiptoes and be like, like a little penguin. Yeah, correct assumption. It's really hard to come up with a wild assumption about someone you just learned can stilt walk. Well, yeah. I assume you'd rather go cliff diving than partying. Yes, 5,000%. 5,000. Also, thank you to everyone who just left like kind messages on here. It's making me very, happy and motivated as I go. Not motivated to actually stitch on this thing though. I assume that you are no longer religious? Correct, I am not. I assume you don't dress up and go to Renaissance fairs. That's correct now. I actually grew up dressing up and going to Renaissance fairs because my oldest sister is a sewist as well. She made us so many costumes when we were kids. We just had a section of our garage that was these incredible costumes she made. And we lived fairly close to the Texas Renaissance Festival, which is like a big one. I think it's the one they made that TV show about. although I haven't watched it, so I don't know. It was a pretty cool Renaissance fair, and it was within driving distance for us. So I don't remember when they discovered that, but I was still fairly young. I have 3 older sisters, so like they discovered it and then we started coming along. But it became a yearly thing that we would go to the Renaissance fair. Sometimes they would go more than once. I think sometimes eventually I went more than once. We brought friends with us and we would dress up every time. I have not done that since leaving for college, I guess. And it's one of those things that it's like, I think it requires a group of people. It's not something Matt would be into, and I accept that about him. That's perfectly fine. So I think it requires kind of a friend group, or, you know, what I had, a sister group, a family group to go. It's not something you'd really go to alone. And like, this automatically sounds sad to people, but I don't mean it to sound sad. I really haven't had that since I've become an adult. I'm not in the place where I am. I don't really have friend groups anymore. So yeah, I haven't ever really tried to go back. I know we have one, a Renaissance fair in LA. It's also become less my style as I've gotten older. Not like the Renaissance thing in general, but just like the crowds of people, the kind of party-ish vibe. I'm pretty sure the LA one has a very party-ish vibe. I assume you, at the very least, take a shot at every possible hobby. I'd like to. I assume you keep a pretty loosey-goosey schedule because you want the freedom to work on what makes you happy, but if you do actually make plans and then the plans change or don't work out, you get incredibly annoyed or overwhelmed and immediately want nothing to do with the whip or the outing until you're done being frustrated. Opposite. Actually, the direct opposite of this. I make intensely detailed schedules, but then I'm not annoyed if I have to change them. Unless that change is in some way messing up a deadline that's like serious for me. Like it happens when you have to like work with brands, or if I'm like falling behind on videos, where I'll get like more stressed out with it, and then if plans change, I get frustrated. I get frustrated when outside forces change my plans, because I'm like, how dare you touch my schedule? I can change my plans whenever I want though. So the way that I keep my schedule, which like maybe I should make a video about this at some point, because I've literally never found a planner that works for me. I use a document that I do myself. But the way I keep my schedule, it's constantly changing and I'm constantly updating it. And this, again, started back in college. That's when I created this type of schedule for myself and found out that it works. It brings me a weird sense of joy to change my schedule and to update it. So yeah, opposite of this, very detailed schedule, open to changing it multiple times a day sometimes. I assume you'd love to organize in-person meetups, live vlogs on projects and planning, or for where more follower input might be helpful, but just can't stand all those interactions in real time without depleting your peopling reservoir rather quickly. I like the term peopling reservoir. Reservoir. Yeah, there's a part of me that really wants to plan or organize more interactive stuff. I was going to talk about this at the end, but I'll just talk about it now. I'd love to start doing some live streaming, and by I'd love to, I mean, I was thinking about this over a year ago and then just kind of was like, and let it deplete. I've asked about, like, would you be interested in live streams before, and when you ask about that, you tend to get more answers in the negative, I've learned, which is perfectly fine. Like, I get that a lot of people just don't really have an interest in live streaming. And I think anytime you're doing a live stream or some sort of event, you're doing it for a small group of people, and that's okay. So I've been considering that again, especially for projects like this, like the Beauty and the Beast thing, where people might just want to like hang out for a little bit and lightly chat a lot more lightly than what we're doing now so that I can actually make some progress. Yeah, so like, again, you can let me know if that's something you're interested in and that might motivate me to actually do it this time. As far as actual live in-person meetups though, yes, I'm 100% always in between this whole like, that'd be so cool and it'd be great for community building, and like I'd love to meet people who watch my videos, and then that's immediately balanced with like, yikes, terrifying. I don't do well with people face to face still. So yeah, I've thought about like, I have a road trip coming up. Might have already happened by the time this video comes out. And part of me is like, oh, maybe you should like plan some get-togethers across various places as you go. And the other part of me is like, that just means that I will spend the entire road trip terrified and exhausted. So yeah, it's a hard balance. I want to do things with people, and then I also just have to recognize that my social battery or my peopling reservoir is so small. I assume the fibercraft bug will get to you eventually. Knitting, crocheting, spinning. I tried knitting. I tried that with my friend Shannon. I didn't love it. I kind of think the main reason that I'm less interested in yarn-based arts is because texturally speaking, I don't really like yarn. And like I've touched different kinds. I know that they feel wildly different from each other, but like across the board, it's not the most pleasant texture for me to work with. And I think that just kind of makes me less interested in those crafts and arts altogether. That being said, I want to try everything, I want to experience everything, so all of that stuff is still on the list. I assume you had a long journey to get comfortable with filming yourself talking on camera. I had a journey. It actually wasn't that long. It was really short. I thought I would not do well talking on camera, and then I went through a method and it was way more comfortable than I thought it would be, and it kind of got better really fast. This is something that I could do a whole second channel video on, so I won't get into it now. But yeah, it was a journey and I used a method, and for me personally, it just worked pretty fast, which to me was a sign that like, oh, this was something you kind of always wanted to do, which is true, because if you go all the way back to my childhood, I always wanted to do film and TV stuff, and this is kind of the next closest thing. My assumption is that you're an easy person to get to know in real life, but you also strike me as the type of person that makes connections slowly, but once you do connect, it's very deep. That's hard to say. I think I am not good with people, and don't fight me on this, just trust me, not a good friend. As in, you can get to know me really fast if you just ask me questions and you're willing to just let me talk about myself. And I know that comes off as super self-obsessed. I know it does, but I have scripts about myself and I have major hang-ups when it comes to asking other people about themselves. My brain literally starts playing games with me and it's very frustrating. So like, getting to know me as in like we'll have an actual conversation. I mean, I guess it happens. This usually happens on background jobs. That's kind of why I like to continue working those, because I get to a job, I'm there for a day, sometimes maybe 2 or 3 days. You're around a whole new group of people. And usually I will find at least one person who I kind of click with, and we sit and we talk all day and we have good conversations. This happened at my last background job, or one of the recent ones. I had some really great conversations with this woman for like 2 days straight, and then we left and we moved on, and I doubt I'll ever see her again. Hopefully this all makes sense as an answer. I think like, yeah, if the situation is right where we have some time to sit and talk, I can get to know a person pretty quickly. If you ask me questions, I will immediately open up, because I'm honestly like, I don't have an issue talking about myself, as we can tell from my videos. As far as like deeper connections though, I don't really make deeper connections. I don't really have people in my life who I've held on to over many, many years. I struggle to keep up with people from the past. It's so much effort, and like this sounds bad, but like work for my brain to invest emotionally in another human being that I think I just don't most of the time. And then I think I am such a bad friend. Like, I'm not good at being the person who initiates or leads in a relationship. So I think when you're a person like that, you have to kind of get like adopted by someone. There has to be a person who's like, I'm okay with the fact that you're going to give 1% effort and I'm going to give 99% effort, and I'm going to do all of the initiating and the leading in this relationship. And I think that's just a rare combo. You often see that combo in TV shows. This is getting to be a long answer now, but we're going with it. This is a very common combo to see in TV shows, is you see like this one person who's giving almost no effort to a relationship and the other person who's giving all of the effort. And honestly, I think that is so both true and unrealistic at the same time. It's like there are people that's the only kind of relationship they're going to be able to have long term, is someone who will give so much into that relationship because they just aren't capable of it. But I also think it's very rare to actually find that person and make that relationship happen in real life, and TV shows make it seem like that just happens all the time. It really doesn't. Because you also, like, the people who are willing to give the most are often more and more like extroverted, which can be an immediate turnoff to the person who isn't willing to give anything, because energy can often be like an expeller. Like if I meet somebody who's just like super extroverted, I'm like, ah, and I want to run immediately. So yeah, it's a weird thing, but when you're this kind of person who just struggles so hard to put effort into a relationship, you gotta meet this other person who's willing to make up for that difference. And I just don't think that happens as much as TV shows would have us think it happens. Did that actually answer the assumption? I don't know. I feel like it was a long tangent. I assume hemming is your least favorite part of sewing, while pockets are your favorite part. I don't think hemming is my least favorite part because it's pretty easy. Like sometimes it's more annoying than others. And I don't think pockets are my favorite part because they're like my favorite thing to put on a garment, but the actual sewing on of the pocket, it's either kind of boring because I've done this exact style of pocket so many times, or it's really frustrating and complicated. So actually no to both of those, but now I'm trying to, what is my least favorite and my most favorite? I don't know. I feel like once you get to the actual sewing together of the garment, it's all just sewing. My least favorite part is having to rip something out and redo it, I guess. My assumption is that your homeschooling had a very heavy-handed religious bias and you couldn't wait to break out of it when growing up. Yes, it was very, very religiously biased. I don't think I was aware of how much I couldn't wait to break out of it, but yeah, I absolutely couldn't wait to break out of it based on how quickly it happened. Okay, this is a long one, so I'm just gonna do some parts of it. You are completely in tune with your intuitions, even though your brain is very analytical. I think I'm pretty in tune with my intuitions because my brain is so analytical, because it's just constantly analyzing everything. It's analyzing my own feelings and my emotions every day. When you are analyzing data constantly, let's just refer to myself as a computer now. When you are constantly analyzing data, both from inward and from outward stuff, your intuition is actually just the results of that data. So is it always correct? No, but I think it's more correct more often than maybe a person who's never analyzing data. You can tell almost immediately if a person is a good bean or a bad bean, and will immediately take people out of your life quickly and efficiently if they make you feel off in any way. Yeah, I've had this. There are people, this actually happened recently with, not somebody we know, somebody that Matt watched online and really liked, and I was like, I can't stand that person. Something feels very wrong and off about them. And then like a massive, massive scandal came out about that person. Not scandal, just like straight up illegal activities. And I was like, did I call it or did I call it? Yeah, I have, this kind of goes back to the whole making connections question and like keeping people in your life and stuff. God, this comes off, it's hard to talk about stuff like this in short form because I feel like it immediately comes off as so bad. I have no problem dropping people out of my life. Basically, if you make my life worse or even just like more complicated, then I'm like, bye. I don't understand the point of keeping up a relationship that has negative impacts on you, right? Like, what's the point of that? What is the point of putting effort into a relationship that drains you or makes you feel worse about yourself or crosses your boundaries? What's the point of that? To me, it's very easy to just be like, nope, we're just gonna move on from that. We don't We don't have to continue that. Granted though, I am also a very passive-aggressive person, so do I like confront something like that and be like, we're ending the relationship? No, I will usually just disappear, which I recognize is not necessarily a great thing. To go down to the last thing here, you are willing to be uncomfortable in situations for the people you love. I hate being in uncomfortable situations. Actually, wait. Okay, I'm willing to be uncomfortable if it means that everyone else around me is not uncomfortable, and that's been my entire life. My goal is to always be like, let's make sure that no one else is feeling uncomfortable or bothered or inconvenienced whatsoever, and if that means that I have to be uncomfortable, bothered, or inconvenienced instead, that's fine. Yeah, I will take that on to make sure that nobody else around me is experiencing that, in my presence at least, or because of me in any way. Which, yeah, also, like, not a great thing. Not gonna recommend this to anyone. It's people-pleasing, I guess. It's a whole thing. I could do an hour chat just on that kind of topic, but let's move on. I assume you and Matt are not legally married. We actually are legally married. We had to get legally married because Matt is Brazilian and we needed a green card, and I can now joke about that because he is officially a citizen. I mean, at least I hope I can. Everything is risky nowadays. But yes, we are legally married. If it had not been for the green card situation, I don't think we would be legally married. That's a whole topic of itself. I'm not a big fan of marriage. I assume you have the how hard can it be gene when faced with a challenge. I also assume your house is always fairly tidy. Yeah, the how hard can it be thing to me is just like a logic-based assumption. I look at something and I'm like, well, some other human being has done that thing at one point, which means it is a thing a human being is capable of. And then it's like, well, why were they capable of that? Is it because they had really good upper body strength? I probably can't do that though, because I don't have that. I don't have upper body strength. Is it because they had an intelligent brain? Then I can probably do that because my brain works and I can make it work better. So it's basically that, like, unless there's a standout thing that's like, you had to have this specific ability or skill or function that I as a human being don't have, anything else I'm like, yeah, I should be able to do that. I remember thinking about this, about learning to drive back when I was, 16, 17. I remember there being this slight moment of being like, oh God, this seems scary. Like, it's a lot of responsibility. It's this whole car that you're driving around. And then immediately I was like, yeah, but like all of these other human beings do it. So you can also do it. How hard can it be? House fairly tidy? Yeah, I'm terrible at cleaning. I hate cleaning, as in the removal of dirt and germs. I love organizing, and I typically have to have everything organized all the time. So I cannot live in a messy space for very long, although I can live longer than I should in a dirty space, which is annoying. I don't like that it's dirty, but I just hate cleaning so much. How long have I filmed now? Oh God, an hour. This is gonna be a long video, y'all. I don't even know how far we are through the assumptions. But they've been great so far, so varied. Thank you guys. I assume that when you are not filming, you always have music playing in the background. Actually, at this point, it's usually TV shows. When I'm not filming, or if you ever see me wearing headphones while I am filming, there is most definitely a TV show playing, sometimes music. I felt bad about that for a while, and then I was like, why do you feel bad about that? I spend so much time alone at home working on things that do not take my full brain space. In other words, I spend so much time just with my brain that it's like, you gotta cut down on that time a little bit. Some people need to spend more time with their brains. Some of us need to regulate the amount of time we spend with our brains. TV shows help with that. TV shows or YouTube. It's usually YouTube. I assume you sort your books in alphabetical order. I don't think I currently have any books sorted in alphabetical order. These over here are sorted in rainbow order. If I have a series, it's always sorted by the order of the series itself. And actually, most of my books right now are not sorted because they're just like stacked in my office and they're kind of every which way. Someday I will put shelves in there, official bookshelves, and then put my books in them. And then how would I sort them? Would I sort them alphabetical by author's last name? Maybe? That's something I'm gonna have to think about whenever I get to that part of my office, which will be a long time from now. I assume you and Matt eloped. That is correct. Y'all, one of the first scripts that I wrote for the second channel was the story of Matt and I getting married, and I still have not filmed it because it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm not ready for the feedback on that. Not because of the way we got married, but because I can't really talk about that without also talking about my feelings about weddings in general. Spoiler alert, they're kind of negative. That's just one of those things that I'm like, so many people feel the direct opposite as you, that if you share that online, you're going to get obliterated in the comments, and you have to be ready for that. And I haven't felt ready for it yet. But yes, we eloped. You were the inspiration for my thesis. What? Let me pause and read this real fast. That's freaking awesome. Congratulations to you. Okay, this one's so random, I love it. I assume if you had to choose between swimming with sharks and petting a tiger, you would first ask a lot of questions about safety and such, and then start wondering if they had something cooler in the back. I will answer this very literally. No, I have very little interest in safety and a lot of interest in both animals and cool experiences. So if somebody said, please choose between swimming with sharks and petting a tiger, I would say, I want both, take me there right now. And also, do you have something cooler in the back? But I want to do that too. All of them. Yeah, I actually don't ask a lot of questions when it comes to like, hey, you want to do something cool? I'm like, yes. Yes, please. Take me there. I will do it. Will it lead to my death? Maybe. Let's not ask questions. I feel like you see something cool and you almost immediately think, it would be so cool to make that myself, and you have a bit of a wish list for projects. Bit of a wish list? Have I told you about my master ideas list? It's hundreds of items long. I assume you struggle with organization and may even have several partially completed projects tucked away in a forget corner of the closet. No, exact opposite. So this is something I kind of talked about on the second channel, but I know that I am autistic, and I think possibly I am also ADHD. The reason I know I'm autistic and I think maybe I'm ADHD is that the autism is way stronger and more in control. I think a lot of people have always said like, oh, they get ADHD vibes from my videos, and I do think that comes across on camera some, which is what's made me start to question it. There's a whole video about this. Go watch the video if you want to know. But basically, the autistic side is very organized and very on top of things, and does not like clutter in the home, does not like clutter in the mind, does not do unfinished projects, all of that stuff. And the possibly ADHD side of me gets kind of swallowed up by the autistic one. So no, I'm exceptionally organized, like overly so. Organization literally brings me joy. So much joy. It's why I have a super organized schedule. It's why I have so many spreadsheets. It's why I have lists and plans that constantly change. I love some good organization. This is so specific and so correct. I mean, I know we've talked, so have we talked about this before? I assume that you agree with me that Central Market is the best, and wherever you live, other stores will always be lacking. Yeah, we had to have talked about this. Are you from Dallas? So there's a grocery store in the Dallas area, and I assume it has to be a chain, so there have to be more of them, but they certainly aren't here in California. They've never been in any other place that I've lived. But it's kind of like a fancy grocery store called Central Market. It has the most insane produce section you will ever see. The whole store is insane. I just freaking love it. We literally would go there Like once I started to drive, I would take my younger brother and sister there as like day trips. There was a Krispy Kreme next door. We would get donuts and then we'd go to Central Market and we would just slowly walk around. We'd eat all the samples. We would usually get some like weird tropical fruits and go try them out afterward. We would just get like, oh God, they have so much stuff. It's so good. They're such a good store. Yeah, and that was like a very special activity that the three of us would do together. So like not only do I just love Central Market in general, and yeah, no other store will ever compete, but also it has like a very special nostalgia thing for me because that was kind of the last period of time that I spent around my younger brother and sister before we all kind of parted ways. So it'll always be very special. I assume that you have a hard time buying things such as clothing without thinking, but I could just make that. Yeah, I mean, I don't really buy clothing anymore because I'm like, I could just make stuff. And except, well, I would say except bras, but I very rarely buy bras too. I usually just wear them until they fall apart. But I don't really feel like making bras or swimwear or anything like that, so I will still buy that. Socks. I have no interest in making socks. But yeah, I haven't bought clothing in a while. I think the only outer clothing item I would buy would be jeans, because I don't really have an interest in making jeans, but I also hate wearing jeans, so I don't buy them. I assume you own your great home which you paid for with your vast YouTube monies. No. I only started making a living wage on YouTube 18 months ago, as I mentioned, and it's a living wage. Matt gets paid well for his job, but not insanely, just well. No, his parents bought this house for us to live in, which was extremely generous of them. Like, I was on YouTube when this happened, so there's videos about this, but yeah, we basically got kicked out of our last house on fairly short notice and could not find another place that had the space that we needed for the budget that we had, and his parents stepped in and offered to just buy a house here. And that is, again, privilege that I will never claim to be anything other than privilege. And I'm very grateful for. Okay, we're finally starting to get into some repeats. You guys have been so varied so far. But we got some more like, I assume you want to learn everything. Yes, anything and everything. I'm interested in the whole world. Oh, obviously with some exceptions. I don't really care about cars. I don't. I assume that though you seem very thrifty, all bets are off if you hear about an epic tea room. Y'all are so good. Yeah, basically for me, all bets are off when it comes to any kind of food. A gourmet meal, a tea room, I will drop some dough on an incredible food experience. I have never wanted to pay more than $20 for a dress, but I will pay $200 for a meal, and really not even bat an eye. We all have our different priorities. I assume you can't handle spicy food, and that you can be rather repetitive with meals. Yeah, I have a very low spice tolerance. Very white in that way. If it says spicy next to it, I'll pretty much be like, nope. I am trying to get a little bit more adventurous because I've learned recently that some things that say spicy is okay, but I don't like to be in pain when I eat. I love food and I don't want to experience pain while I'm eating. It kind of ruins the experience. Repetitive meals, I actually can't repeat meals very much because I get bored of them very quickly. So like a few months ago, I was like, I'm gonna do charcuterie. A bunch of charcuterie. And you kind of have to repeat when you do that, because if you're gonna buy like all these meats and cheeses and use them in little amounts and you don't want to waste them, you kind of have to eat that every day. And if I repeat meals like that, it's like now I can't eat charcuterie for the next 6 months because I got tired of it so fast. So yeah, if I do repeat meals, it will ruin it for me and I'll have to take a long break from it. So I usually just try not to so that I don't ruin meals for myself. I assume that there are some projects, videos you started and then had to abandon for some reason. Yes, there are a few of these. I'm trying to think what they are. Way back, there was an embroidery pattern I was gonna make that was it was 2 pieces. It was the hat from My Fair Lady, her like big hat, and then Rex Harrison's fedora with the teacup on top. I still think it would have been a really cute pattern, but the video idea was that I was gonna like take you through my whole process of creating an embroidery pattern from start to finish. And I got to the point of having to start sewing on it and just completely lost interest. Did not want to do this anymore. And so yeah, that video I have the very beginning of it filmed and it never came out. I was gonna do this massive like multi-year bread making project, and like to convince myself to start, I filmed the intro. It did not convince me to start. When I got back from France, I did like a kitchen video of making a Perry breast. I filmed that entire video and never put it out, but it's because at the end of it, I felt very weird about it. And I think this is because I had just come back from traveling for a while and I was in a very weird mood. But it wasn't like I had an issue with the video idea or anything. It was that I did not feel like I was myself while filming the whole thing. It just felt very off to me and kind of forced and odd. And I was like, I don't even want to edit that because something was very weird there. And I think it was just too soon after I got back. Like I got back home and I started filming this thing. And it was like France was kind of weird for me emotionally. It not in a bad way, but it jarred my brain a little bit. And I think I needed to get back in. So yeah, those are the 3 that I can think of. There might be some others, but that's all I can think of right now. My assumption is that you miss being an actor and having someone direct control the scene instead of coming up with ideas for yourself as a video creator. Ooh, partially correct. Literally, was this yesterday? I think it was yesterday or the day before that I just had this sudden wave of like missing acting. Like acting an actual role, not being myself on camera, but like performing a role, to the point where I was like, do I need to go look for some auditions? Is this something I want to start doing again? It hit me so randomly. But it's kind of funny because when I say I miss acting, I'm missing something that I never really had. Even in college, which was really kind of my only opportunity to act, to perform, I did very little of it because hierarchically, which happens in theater departments, there's always a hierarchy. I was not high on the totem pole of people who are gonna get cast and stuff. And I'm a logical person. So I kind of realized that right from the start and was like, well, I better start working backstage because I'm not going to get paid to act anytime soon. So because I was always working backstage, designing, doing wardrobe, stuff like that, I just didn't end up performing very much. To graduate, you have to do a senior recital. And it was like 3 or 4 songs you had to perform. One of them had to have a dance, and then you were supposed to perform 2 scenes. So you're supposed to do something classic and something modern. This is gonna be a long story. We're settling in for it. You were supposed to do something classic and something modern. My modern scene was from a play called, oh crap, now I'm gonna forget what it was called. I'll put it on screen right here because I forget what it's called right now. And then my classic scene was like a Shakespeare or something. Eventually, the teacher who was in charge of my recital was like, you know what, we're just gonna cut your classic scene because I was never as good at classic acting and it wasn't coming across as well. And my other one was so long. Where is this story going? So performing that modern scene from a play was kind of the longest section of acting I ever did in college. It was like a 10-minute scene, and that's kind of the most acting I ever did as far as like having lines and stuff, because usually I was just in the ensemble in the shows, like singing and dancing and you know, being the general ensemble person. And I loved it. I loved it so much. And I was like, oh, dang, too bad you found out you love that now. You're about to graduate. And I remember we had a new drama professor who had just started that year and had never seen me perform because my senior year, I was completely backstage doing design, everything. I literally talked them out of making me audition. I was like, there's no point in me auditioning. You know, I'm just gonna go do costumes. So this was like the first and only time he ever saw me perform. And I remember him coming up to me afterward and being like, oh, you can actually act. And I was like, yeah. Yep, I can. Anyway, telling that story made me oddly emotional, which implies to me that yes, I still desperately want to act. There's some part of me inside. What was your full assumption? Oh, having somebody direct a scene as opposed to coming up with ideas. When it comes to making videos here though, no, I love being in charge. I also really wanted to go into directing to the point that I applied to graduate schools for directing. I love being in charge. And I kind of have endless ideas. So that part I don't mind, but yes, I do I do miss acting. I assume that you at one time considered being a musician as a career. No, not really. I knew from a pretty young age that like singing was not going to be my high point. So never more than like being 11 and being like, oh God, I wish I could be a singer. Never legitimately. I assume that you rarely order specific fabric online for your various projects. True, there's usually it's more like, I want to make this general thing. I don't really care what the fabric is. There's been a few times that it's been like, this needs to be a specific fabric, and I'll go get that. But that's rare because that always means it's going to be more expensive. And I am a cheapskate when it comes to fabric. Not to gourmet meals. I assume that ripping zips out of wedding dresses and working with lots of thrifted fabrics has given you a unique view on how to decide what to use particular fabrics for. I actually have not done much of that. I am not very good at upcycling garments. If it's already sewn into a garment, my idea bank just like disappears. There are people who are so skilled at upcycling a pre-made garment, and that is not me. It's not a skill that I've been able to even really develop. I assume we're seeing more crafts outside of sewing because your wardrobe is full of clothes. Partially, yeah, I have gotten to the point where I am mainly wearing my handmade clothes now. I have enough handmade clothes that are comfortable on me and that I enjoy wearing to basically fill all my days. So there's not as much of a need for me to just make day wear anymore. That is partially the reason. Another part of the reason is what I talked about before, that I want to make sure that I don't burn out on sewing. And the best way to do that is to bring in other crafts and to vary what I'm doing. You haven't been to the Fabric District in LA. It's too crowded, I'm assuming. I have. I've been there a few times, especially when my sister and my stepmom visit. We always go down there. I think I've been there maybe 4 times total. However, your assumption is right on the basis that I don't like it. I find it not necessarily too crowded. It's not usually super crowded down there. It's the style of the store and the style of shopping itself that massively stresses me out. The stores are usually very packed and hard to get around. There's usually nobody in them except you, which means the store owner is just staring at you, and I cannot handle that. And then like stuff usually isn't labeled with prices, which again, like do not ask me to ask somebody how much something costs. If I say, how much is this? In my brain, I've already committed to buying it because I had to interact with you. So now I have to buy it, which is dumb, I know, but it's the way my brain works. So like the general style of shopping in the LA Fashion District is not pleasant for me, and I try to avoid going down there. I assume your sister in Oklahoma isn't Carrie. That's correct. I have a bunch of sisters. The one of them who lives in Oklahoma is not Carrie. My assumption is that your channel will keep being one of my favorites as long as you keep posting videos. Y'all are so nice. You're so nice. I woke up this morning, first thing, got coffee and compliments. It's a good morning. I hope the same for you. Wake up in the morning and get coffee and compliments. There should be a coffee store that does that. Coffee and compliments. You can come in the morning and get your coffee, and on the coffee cups, the baristas write nice things about you. Wouldn't that be a great way to start your morning? I assume the puppy breaks while working far outweigh the amount of time working. Actually, no, unless he's being super duper needy. He doesn't require a bunch of attention these days. Right now, Matt is out of town, so he's more needy. But even now, I haven't seen him in the last hour. I assume you're 3 gnomes in a trench coat. I enjoyed your brain fixation. Thank you for sharing. I assume your parents are proud of you for your successful YouTube channel. I assume most of your siblings are too busy to watch your YouTube channel. Those are interesting. So first of all, my mother is no longer living. My father is not in great health, but I don't really know how he feels about my YouTube channel. I think he's proud of it, I guess. I think I have 2 siblings who sometimes or frequently watch my videos, 2 out of the 6. I assume you'll get around to trying watercolor if you haven't already. I did a little watercoloring course as a homeschooler, I think in 9th grade or something, and I didn't love it. So no, watercoloring's not high on my list. However, as with most things, I wouldn't mind trying it again. I think I just need to try it again with a teacher or something because, yeah. I was it's also watery. Why is it all so watery? I assume that you do not have a plan to be a parent. That's correct. At this time, and so far for my entire life, I have no plans of being a parent, other than being a birth mom, which I already am. I assume there are several other circus arts you've tried. What have I tried? So this started in college and lasted for a little bit, but then kind of just petered off because life made it too hard to go to classes. But I did aerial silks, aerial hammock, aerial hoop. I did pole dancing, which isn't necessarily a circus art, but was kind of in that world for me. I took like one class that was trapeze, like stationary trapeze, and I did aerial cube, which at that point, it's all kind of the same thing, but it's just a giant cube hanging from the sky instead of like a single bar or a hoop or anything. I really liked aerial cube because there's so many random places for you to hang on to and sit and stuff. That's all I've tried. Oh, well, stilt walking, I guess, counts. But yeah, I always wanted to try, what is it, German wheel and Psy wheel? Sir wheel? I don't know how you pronounce that. I've always wanted to try those, but I haven't gotten to. I assume you loved the Laura Ingalls Wilder books as a kid. No, I actually never read them. Both those, Little Women and Anne of Green Gables, I did not read, and I still haven't read. Yeah, I still haven't read any of those. Some of my siblings really, really liked those, and those were the kind of books that my mom wanted us to read, so maybe it was demand avoidance, but I was already reading like Sherlock Holmes and Rudyard Kipling, and like, yeah, I kind of glanced over those books and was like, they seem boring, and I didn't read them. You've added more fruiting plants to the yard and not shared them with us yet. I haven't. At the time that I'm filming this, I still haven't. The progress on turning our yard into a garden has kind of been stopped short for financial reasons. But it'll still happen someday. Someday. You got in trouble as a kid for singing at inappropriate times. I mean, I remember my dad yelling at me one time. Not yelling at me. I remember him one time, I was singing while doing the dishes. What was I singing? I think I was singing Jesus Take the Wheel, like over and over and over again. And he finally just like leaned back from his office and was like, yeah, I don't know why I said yelling. He didn't yell at all. He said something like, that sounds beautiful, but can you please stop? So he very politely told me to stop, but that's still like in my brain, I was like, oh no, I annoyed someone. I assume that you're not a fan of chocolate. My chocolate love like really fluctuates, and I'm not sure why that is. There are a lot of times that I think I want it and then I don't end up eating it. So I am partially a fan of chocolate, but there are just times when I'm like, nah, I don't want this. Dark chocolate only though. I don't like milk chocolate at all. I will eat very dark chocolate. I assume you enjoy editing. No, I don't. Okay, my card just ran out, and I promised myself I would stop when that happened, because otherwise this is gonna be such a long video. It's already gonna be such a long video. So, oh God. Yeah, there's still a bunch I didn't get to. Sorry about that. But thank you so much to everyone for being here. Thank you for your assumptions. Thank you for your very kind words over there. Thank you for watching. Thank you for allowing me to have this job. It means so much to me. I am so grateful. I appreciate you existing and you being here and you being awesome. And here's to another 3 to 4 years or more of making stuff. Yay!